I'd like to say hello to one of our former players, Mary. We'd like to thank her.
Everybody quiet. This young lady needs to play again. This girl can do it. Take a picture. Somebody this girl can do it. Thanks, guys.
And catch up on all the other things.
شب میری دیگه
منظم میشه. اینجا یک چیز دیگه
Welcome everyone. My name is Alexandra Ramos and I'm a member of the Women's International League of Peace and Freedom, as well as on the board of the Monterey Peace and Justice Center. I want to thank everyone for joining us here tonight. The Peace Lantern ceremony tonight is the 21st annual Remembrance event, and this year is the 80th commemoration of the 1945 atomic bombings by the U.S. on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Japan. Each August throughout Japan, people gather to float lanterns in honor of those victims and all who suffer in wars. Tonight we reaffirm our commitment to ending nuclear proliferation and all warfare. Our program today was developed by the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the Monterey County branch, and it's also sponsored by the Peace Coalition of Monterey County, the Monterey Peace and Justice Center, the Monterey Peninsula Friends Meetings, Quakers, the Veterans for Peace, the Monterey Chapter 46, and the City of Pacific Grove. If you would like to make a contribution to this year's Peace Lantern ceremony, there are several donation jars on the tables on the landing, and I know there's one right here. I want to thank Shinsho, Mugen, Daiko, the wonderful Taiko drummers, for their exciting performance. The sound amplification is being provided by Stu Hayden. Thanks to Stu for his help tonight and over the years. Many thanks to Sylvia Shee of the Monterey Peace and Justice Center and her friends for transporting our tables and our chairs and other supplies as well. Also, many thanks to Catherine Crockett. She's the president of the Monterey Peace and Justice Center and who organized the publicity, the technology, and the transportation of materials, and I'm sure a lot of other things as well. I also want to give a big thanks to the City of Pacific Grove for having us and the Adventures by the Sea for their electricity and the loan of the kayaks. We are happy to welcome Reverend Brendan John Ramsden of the Center for Sacred Studies, who will open the ceremony with a blessing.
It is a blessing to be here in this very beautiful cove in Pacific Grove. How lucky we are to experience with our senses the gifts of the earth, our progenitrix and absolute nurturer, which provides every bit of food, water, and the resources that create our clothing and shelter. In the teachings of all the world's major religions and the indigenous wisdom traditions, you will find one bottom line, one consistent command. Only do to others what you would want them to do to you. For the indigenous wisdom traditions, this included not just other people, but all creatures of the earth, which, spoken in gratitude, might sound something like, "Thank you, chicken," or "Thank you, rabbit," or "Thank you, salad of beets and carrot." Thank you for feeding me. I am eating you knowing that one day I too will be eaten. By old age? By a more powerful animal than I? Or a flood, or a car accident, or finally, the earth itself. Ashes to ground, or buried under the ground, where my body will be give nutrition to the soil. Beyond this universal bottom line, all spiritual paths have in common two prayers, recognized as the most direct and evident. These two are easy to say and will probably be very familiar. The first prayer is, help me, help me, help me. And the second prayer is, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, oxygen, for breathing my lungs. Thank you, gravity, so that I may feel and experience this body and this heart. And thank you, language, my local mother tongue, for challenging me to discern, communicate, speak, and write my personal experience of this quite absurd and actually unprecedented thingamawhatsit we call life. So, who or what are we actually addressing when we speak these two basic universal prayers? Obviously, each religion has its own take on the ineffable. And some steer clear of qualifying the source of the mysterious existence of all things by not using nouns. That is, not naming it a thing. And two examples are early English-speaking ethnologists in their encounters with the Native American mistranslated the Lakota words Wakantanka as Great Spirit. We now know that what Wakantanka really means is greatest, mysterious. They also mistranslated the Ojibwe, Giche Manatau, again as Great Spirit, when a more accurate translation would be biggest amazing. So now I'll address the greatest mysterious for all of us when I speak the prayers which acknowledge our mutual and earth connection. Help us. Help us. Help us. Help us to take personally our intimate connection to this precious planet and everything alive on it, and to work to protect it from human ignorance and destructiveness whenever and wherever we can to the greatest extent of our ability. Help us. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to see how many wonderful compatriots we have who are also grateful and willing to do good work and to make it personal. Thank you. Together and with the ineffable, greatest, mysterious, and biggest amazing, help us. Help us, help us, and thank you. Thank you, thank you.
And I'm sure we all have a big thank you for that blessing, Brendan. All right, now I'm happy to introduce Michael Lojkovic, who will give the land acknowledgement for tonight's event.
As we gather today, we begin by honoring the ancestral lands of the Ohlone, the Ramsden, and the Esselen peoples, who have lived in deep relationship with this land for thousands of years. From the northern tip of the San Francisco Peninsula to the Santa Lucia Mountains in the south, their homeland remains rich with memory, with culture, with meaning. Despite the violent disruptions of the Spanish mission system, the settler colonization and forced displacement, the Ohlone and the Esselen peoples have survived. Many descendants still live here on the Monterey Peninsula, carrying forward traditions of stewardship, traditions of storytelling, and traditions of resistance. Their ongoing work to revitalize their languages, ceremonies, and cultural lifeways reminds us that this land is not just historically indigenous, it is still indigenous. This August marks 80 years since the first nuclear weapon was detonated in the New Mexico desert on July 16, 1945. The U.S. bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki occurred just 2 weeks later. These events ushered in the nuclear age with devastating consequences, not only in Japan, but on this continent as well. We must confront how colonization has evolved. Today, one of the clearest examples is what many call nuclear colonialism. Nuclear colonialism, the exploitation of indigenous lands and communities for uranium mining, nuclear testing, and weapons development. In 1945, the Trinity test took place on Mescalero Apache territory at the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. The surrounding communities, largely indigenous, Hispanic, and poor, received no warning. They became the unknowing first victims of nuclear fallout. For decades, they have suffered from elevated cancer rates, from health problems. Yet up until a month ago, they were excluded from compensation under the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. This pattern persists. New Mexico, one of the poorest states in the United States with one of the highest indigenous populations, remains a center for nuclear weapons development. The continued sacrifices of these communities and lands without consent or justice is a modern form of colonial violence. Reconciliation means more than reflection. It requires action. Supporting indigenous sovereignty, correcting false historical narratives, demanding environmental and racial justice, and returning land when possible. Without this work, a land acknowledgement is not enough. Reconciliation means more than reflection. It requires action. Let this acknowledgement be a living commitment. May we listen to indigenous voices. May we advocate for reparative justice. And may we walk alongside Native communities as allies in the shared work of healing, truth, and transformation. We honor the indigenous peoples of this land, past, present, and future, and we pledge to work together for a more just and equitable world. Thank you.
I'm also honored to welcome Tina Rao, City Council member, who is here representing Pacific Grove, to welcome us. Pacific Grove is a member of Mayors for Peace, which is an international organization of cities dedicated to the promotion of peace. Step right up. Yeah, we both. Okay, great.
Yeah. Sorry. That's fine. Beautiful. Thank you. On behalf of the Mayor and the City Council in Pacific Grove, it's my honor to welcome you to our city on the edge of this beautiful marine sanctuary. And to remind us that we owe it to the next generation and the ones that follow. Let us learn from the past and commit to never repeat it. In the spirit of peace and reverence, thank you for attending and bringing your beautiful celebration to our town. And again, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tina. Next we have Troy Ishikawa, who will tell us his Hiroshima-Nagasaki story.
Most of us are familiar with the atomic bombing of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. But how many of us are equally familiar with the atomic bombing of Nagasaki 3 days later? As I was preparing to give my presentation on Nagasaki, I felt a deeper dread. Initially, I was okay, but as the date of the anniversary grew nearer, I kept putting it off, even though I am quite removed from what happened on August 9, 1945. As an American of Japanese heritage and one who has visited Hiroshima twice, and who has taught English near Tokyo many years ago, the topic still haunts me, and I realized having others help tell this story is important. Otherwise, this 80th anniversary of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki would probably go unnoticed locally. Hiroshima and Nagasaki are akin to a painful psychological wound that is reopened up around the anniversaries, at least to me. In Susan Southart's 2015 book, Nagasaki, Life After Nuclear War, she interviewed 5 hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors. One of them, Mr. Katsuji Yoshida, started to tell his story in the late 1980s. He was in his 50s by this time. The first time he shared his story was in front of a visiting junior high school. Mr. Yoshida had accepted his disfigurement. He could not change what happened to him or how he looked. He no longer let his shyness get in the way of public speaking. He exclaimed to the students, "Have you ever looked up heiwa, the word for peace, in the dictionary?" They never have. They never looked it up because we don't need to know what peace is during peacetime. He said, "Let's look it up together." I say to them, our greatest enemy is carelessness. We need to pay attention to peace. Let me repeat this. Our greatest enemy is carelessness. We need to pay attention to peace. Mr. Yoshida was a member of the Nagasaki Foundation for the Promotion of Peace, as stated by the Kataribe, or storytellers. Their goal: let Nagasaki be the last nuclear-bombed city in history. Mr. Yoshida also said he borrowed the phrase, "The basis of peace is for people to understand the pain of others." The basis of peace is for people to understand the pain of others. Said from a former Hiroshima Peace Memorial administrator. Mr. Yoshida felt the words captured the most important message he could convey out of his experience. In closing, the city of Nagasaki's Peace Education Program provides every 5th grade student an opportunity to visit the Nagasaki Atomic Bomb Museum. Shiroyama Elementary School, which was near the hypocenter of the nuclear bomb, takes it one step further. On the 9th day of every month since August 1951, Shiroyama students, teachers, and administrators gather for hibakusha presentations and discussions of war and peace-related research in the context of the atomic bombing and Japan's wartime atrocities. When the assembly concludes, the student body stands together and bows to the east in the direction of the atomic bomb hypocenter to honor those who died and to hold the vision of the world without war or nuclear weapons. 10 times a year for the first 6 years of their school lives, the children at Shiroyama think about, study, and discuss peace. Thank you.
I am pleased to introduce Jennifer Fellguth to read her poem written especially for this event.
Thank you all for being here this evening, and I'd like to begin with a quote from, of all people, Jimi Hendrix. "When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." My poem is entitled "For the Peacemakers." Let us call out and condemn corruption, complicity in genocide, unconstitutional executive actions that eclipse civil rights. Let us unite in common interest, invest in empathy, act in conscience, resist cruel acts of evil that imperil lives. Let us celebrate diversity, reward generosity, cultivate kindness, embolden compassion, empower flickering embers of hope. Let us protect and support the weakest among us, endeavor to create thriving communities, demand a world that cherishes peace. Thank you.
We're honored to have with us tonight Masako Toki, Senior Project Manager and Research Associate at the James Martin Center for Nonproliferation Studies at Middlebury Institute of International Studies.
Thank you so much for organizing this important event to remember the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and for bringing our community together to reflect on how we can build a more peaceful world. I'm truly humbled to be here with you tonight. My name is Masako Toki, and I work at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, and my focus is on nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation education, especially for young people, high school students, and college students. And I'm originally from Japan, and this remembrance is deeply personal to me. I've had many opportunities to listen to Hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors, speak in my own language. Their stories moved me profoundly and inspired me, my passion for nuclear disarmament. This year marks 80 years since the bombings. The average age of Hibakusha is now over 86, and it's becoming harder to hear directly from them. But it's more important than ever to keep their voices alive and to understand the real human impact of nuclear weapons. Last year, the Hibakusha organization Nihon Hidankyo received the Nobel Peace Prize. In their speech, one survivor said, 10 years from now, there may only be a handful of us left to share our stories. I hope the next generation will carry on our efforts and build an even stronger movement for peace. That message stays with me. Engaging younger generation is essential because this isn't just about the past. It's about our shared future. In that spirit, I'm organizing a public event at the Middlebury Institute on August 6th, Hiroshima Remembrance Day. It's called 80 Years of the Nuclear Age, the role of youth in building a safer world. So everyone is welcome, and I'm also happy that some of my students are here today. And the threat of nuclear weapons is growing. The world feels more dangerous. That's why we need more open conversations like this, focused not only on policy, but on people. The Hibakusha have shown us that even after deep loss, we can choose peace. They didn't respond with anger or blame, but with courage and compassion. They turned their pain into a powerful call for global solidarity. Their concern has never been only for Japan, but for all of humanity. I'll close with the words of Mr. Katsuji Yoshida, a survivor of the Nagasaki bombing. Coincidentally, Mr. Ishikawa also quoted his words, but this is really important. So let me repeat his words. Mr. Yoshida said, "The basis of peace is to understand the pains of others." I believe that deeply. Empathy is where peace begins, not just for nuclear disarmament, but for all human relationships and global challenges. I hope tonight's remembrance will not only help us honor the past, but also spark fresh energy for a more peaceful future. Thank you so much.
Let's welcome Justin Loza, the Vice President of Veterans for Peace, Monterey Chapter 46, to speak with us.
Good evening, everybody. I've titled this From Hiroshima to Gaza, a Survivor's Warning. And just to give everybody a forewarning, some parts are a little graphic, okay? I'm speaking today as the President of Veterans for Peace, Chapter 46, Monterey. We are an organization of veterans who have seen the cost of war and now work to end it. We stand for peace, justice, and complete elimination of nuclear weapons. Last weekend, at our National Veterans for Peace National Convention, I met Leon Cloder, a Japanese peace activist who, at just 6 years old, survived the bombing of Hiroshima. I want to share his story with you in his own words, as he told it to me. Leon was born in Kanagawa Prefecture in 1939. In the summer of 1945, his family was living in Tokyo when the leaflets began falling from the sky that he heard about, warning of possible air raids. His father, a science professor, decided they would return to Hiroshima to gather their belongings so that they could leave the city. That decision placed them in Hiroshima on the morning of August 6th. It was a bright, cloudless morning. Leon sat at the table with his sister and brother while his father worked outside trimming trees. At exactly 8:15, his mother cried out, "Atsui!" Hot! The sky glowed as if there were many suns. Then a blinding flash and a deafening blast and a rush of hot wind tore through their house. His father shouted, "Is everybody okay?" Leon, not even realizing what happened, said, "I'm okay." The house was in chaos, furniture overturned, glass shattered. His father came in bleeding from the head. Outside, most buildings were destroyed. His father decided to turn their home into a first aid station. The injured began arriving, burned, bleeding, and barely able to walk. The asphalt was so hot, softened by the bomb's blast and the fires that followed, that it could burn bare feet. Leon's father told him to gather all the shoes he can find and sandals in the house and bring them to the bridge where survivors were gathering. Leon made many trips. On the bridge, he saw people with skin burned and peeling, faces blank, injuries beyond imagination. Through it all, his father kept a peaceful heart. In the days that followed, their home remained a place of cooperation and calm, even in the shadow of the bomb. And to connect it to today, Leon's story isn't just about the past. In 1945, Hiroshima civilians at least received a leaflet warning. But in Gaza today, more than 2 million people are trapped in a sealed-off territory, told to evacuate when there is nowhere safe to go. Even the so-called safe zones are under fire. Like Hiroshima, many of those killed are civilians, including large numbers of children. In Hiroshima, tens of thousands of children died in a single morning. In Gaza today, children make up nearly half of the population, and they are dying at a rate of more than 1 per hour. And just like Hiroshima, the suffering will not end when the bombing stops. Survivors in both places face lifelong trauma and destroyed homes and generations marked by grief. Today, on the anniversary of the atomic bombings, nuclear weapons are once again being moved as part of a dangerous show of force between powerful nations. The risk of nuclear war is real again. What happened in Hiroshima was a human choice. And those same kinds of words are being made today. And as we remember Hiroshima, we cannot ignore Gaza, where civilians are again caught in mass destruction and loss. The lesson is the same. When the leaders choose war, it's ordinary people who pay the price. And to my fellow veterans, if you're here or listening, we have a powerful voice. Born from the service and our experience, we must use it to speak up for peace and the elimination of nuclear weapons. If we do, we honor not only Leon's story, but every life lost at Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Gaza, and in every place where war is taken that can never be replaced. Thank you very much.
Everyone, let's welcome Michael Eaglesong and his group, VAMP, vocal activists of the Monterey Peninsula. They will be performing a song for us.
Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you for everyone who has gathered here for this occasion. It is all up to us. The first, a poem will be read by Antonina. The poem is by Aurora Levins Morales, and the poem is called Summons. And then there will be a choral response to the poem. Antonina?
Summons by Aurora Levins Morales. Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers from the 1,200 corners of the earth walked out into the gap, one breath between the bullet and the flesh, between the bomb and the family. They told me, we cannot wait for governments. There are no peacekeepers boarding planes. There are no leaders who dare to say that every life is precious. So it will have to be us. They told me we will cup our hands around each heart and sing the earth song, the song of water, a song so beautiful that vengeance will turn to weeping, mourners will embrace, and grief replace any impulse toward harm. They told me 10,000 is not enough, so we have brought this dream into the sleep of the world like a flock of doves. Wake up, put on your shoes. To you who are hearing this, I am bringing bandages and scented guavas from my trees. Meet me at the corner. Let's go.
Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers stepped in between the bomb and the family. They said, don't wait for your leaders to say each life is precious. It'll have to be us. 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 Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers stepped in between the bomb and the family. They said, don't wait for your leaders to say. Each life is precious. It'll have to be us. 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 Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers stepped in between the bomb and the family. They said, don't wait for 10,000 grandmothers. Stage time is little hearts and gold words. It'll have to be us. It'll have to be us. It'll have to be us. 10,000 grandmothers stepped in between and the family. They said, don't wait for your leaders to say. Each life is precious. It'll have to be us. 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 Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers stood in their grief and stopped the machine. Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers stood in their grief and stopped the machine.
That was so powerful. Can we give them another round of applause? Let's welcome Carole Erickson of the Society of Friends and WILPF. She will read a message from the Japanese Buddhist priest to close the program.
This is taken from the words of the priests of the Buddhist church in Berkeley from the mid-1980s, I think. In this time of hate, chaos, and uncertainty, let us reaffirm our desire to bring peace and compassion to everyone and everything in the world. Let us not only remember those who perished in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but in their memory, let us remember as well all people and all beings throughout the world who have lost their lives in war and hate, and those who suffered from loss of loved ones in the war. May this gathering be an inspiration to the whole world, that each of us here tonight promises to work for the cause of peace and harmony for the sake of humankind. In the spirit of oneness and with the trust in infinite compassion and wisdom, we set forth these peace lantern boats with hope that the light from each and every lantern will inspire hope and peace throughout the world. It's a summary of what our previous speakers have made very clear. It was a horrible event. And as Quakers, we are very strongly supportive of everything to follow the same words that the priests have mentioned here. Thank you.
All right, Tai Chi Master Jim Scott Behrens will play the Sakahuchi flute. Prior to the lantern floating, Sharat Lin will perform his dance of peace on the beach. We ask for your quiet attention while the lanterns are afloat. This is a time for thought, prayer, meditation, and you may have feelings of sadness and grief. But I also invite you to welcome hope into your hearts as well. Thank you for all the speakers, and thank you everyone for being here today as well. And I want to say thanks to the kayakers and to Lynn Hamilton who organized them for this event, and everyone's participation really.